Peace, family. Peace, family. Welcome back to another episode of the Silent Conversations podcast. It's your brother, Mr. West, tapping in with you again to be able to share some more insight, to be able to discuss another element of self-development that we all can strive to improve on. Today, just like every other episode, we want to look at self. We want to see what can we do within ourselves. What can we see within ourselves that can help us improve to become the best version of ourselves. And today, we're going to speak on an aspect that really deals with what we deal with on a regular basis, which is our perspective. How we view things. How we view things says a lot about the way we think. How we think says a lot about what we're going to do and the actions that we're going to take. The actions that we take are all a reflection of what we believe and how we value ourselves. So we want to really talk about the perspective and why we must expand and shift it. Why must we expand and shift our perspective? What could be contributing to the decisions that we're making? Could it be that we're too narrow-minded? Could it be that we see things only from our point of view and not from other points of view? So we begin to assume we know what other people are doing. We assume that other people understand where we're coming from, when ultimately they may not even be thinking about the things that we're thinking about, which will ultimately contribute to why their decisions or their actions don't line up with what we think they should be doing. And then the same thing goes for us. Many of the things that we do, other people may not understand, other people may not truly get. But the reason why it's that way is because we're looking at it from our point of view. So we're going to tap in on this particular episode here. Let me see if I can fix. I want to just adjust one thing. Okay. I think we'll be good. Again, peace, family. Welcome back to another episode of the Silent Conversations podcast. This podcast is brought to you by my book, The 3 Ps, The Keys to Having Better Days. We all want better days in life. And sometimes we allow bad moments to magnify and take over our day, and we feel like we had a bad day. When one thing goes against what our plans were, and one thing goes that we didn't plan for shows up, unexpected circumstances show up, we tend to allow that to change our mood. We tend to allow what that one thing that someone may have done that offended us cause us to distort the way we view the whole day, when we have to understand that every day is a blessing. Every day that we wake up, we should be grateful to be alive. Be grateful that we have these experiences and even these bad moments, because in every bad moment, there's a lesson to be learned. And everything that does go our way, that's something even more to be grateful for, because no one was promised to wake up today, and we're not guaranteed that we're going to see the next day, or maybe even the next hour, or even the next minute. So we really want to be gracious and grateful for having a day, not just good days. We don't want to just be thankful for the good days. We also want to find that lesson so we can be thankful for the bad days. In this book, The Three P's, we break down how peace, positivity, and perspective. We're going to talk about perspective today, but how we can use these three elements to take any day and make it a good day, and take any good day and make it a better day. So tap in. If you would like a copy of this book, be sure to text the word ebook to 804 221 6226. I will send you a link to the digital copy of this book. If you would like a physical copy, just text the word book to 804 221 6226, and I'll be sure to get you a physical copy of the book as well. Again, I welcome you to the Silent Conversations podcast. And as I said in the intro, we're going to be talking about perspective, and why it's so important for us to expand our perspective, why it's so important for us to shift our perspective as we go through life, as we experience different things. We can see things one way, but somebody else may be looking at that same thing and see it a whole different way. They may be interpreting your actions a whole different way based off of their experiences. So we're going to talk about that today. And make sure that you like, comment, and share this video out to someone that you feel can benefit from this information. I strive to be able to be as transparent and as realistic as I can be, as far as sharing how I shift my perspective on how I develop myself as a person. As I've stated in previous episodes, you watching me grow in real time. Every episode, I strive to improve and be better than I was last episode. So that's what we're gonna do again today. As you can see, we got a little bit of a change in the way that the camera looks. We trying some different things. We still working on the lighting and making things look better. But I appreciate your patience. I appreciate the support. I appreciate those who have checked out episodes. If you haven't checked out the past episodes, please do so. It's the Silent Conversations podcast. You can also catch the audio experiences on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, wherever you listen to audio experiences for podcasts. Be sure to check out the Silent Conversations podcast with your brother, Mr. West. But I'm not going to waste any more time. Let's get into talking about perspective and why it's so important. Everything that you go through shapes your perspective. It shapes the way that you view life. It shapes the way you view yourself, the way you view others. So perspective is so important, because if we don't pay attention to our perspective, when we don't take intentional effort to expand our perspective, you'll find yourself hitting a brick wall. You'll find yourself bumping up against glass ceilings, because you're only using your experiences as the reason why you move forward, or as the um, catalyst for the decisions that you're making. So why do we say we need to expand our perspective, and why do we need to take in consideration other people's perspectives? Well, for me, a lot of the things that I've been through causes me to view life in a different way. So for me personally, I've shared on the podcast on some things that kind of were considered, you can be considered as negative, that happened in my life. I had, individuals take their life while I'm on the phone. I've lost friends to murder. I've lost friends just because we share different viewpoints. I lost friends because we may not have mutual benefits at this point. Um, I've had family do things that aren't too conducive to having a relationship, and a lot of assumptions, a lot of betrayal in my life. And that, in a way, can shape your perspective to be very skeptical of individuals. So, me personally, I'm not a person that really takes people's words for actual fact right away. I guess that's the best way I can say it right now. But I don't really take people's words as serious as maybe the next person. The reason being is because so many people have said things to me and then they don't actually materialize in real life. So I don't believe first thing when someone tells me they're going to do something, I'm waiting for it to actually happen. And then at that point, I feel more relieved or more comfortable. Over time, the more that their word becomes bond that I can see and that it can be proven, at that point, I become more comfortable. But I'm also very skeptical of what people say they're going to do because I've been around so many people that said they were going to do things and they didn't do them. I've been around so many people who had to be reminded of what they was going to do, that they said that they were going to do for me and they didn't do it, or what they said they was going to do to be able to benefit a group or a team and they didn't do it. So I'm pretty skeptical when it comes to certain things. I don't take everything to heart or take it so personal, and I don't take it as serious maybe as I should, but it's based off my perspective, based off my experience. Now, with that being said, there's other people who may be more inclined to believe someone's words because their experience has allowed them to see people who are men and women of their words. So they're more willing to take what you say as bond from the first sense. They don't need you to show and prove or begin taking a step towards that direction of doing what you say you're going to do for you believe it. Me personally, I need to see some action before I'm really into that, or really believe in what you say. I say that as well because in a way that can limit me. It has limited me in the past. So I'm learning to trust people more every day. I'm learning to trust myself and trust my instincts more every day, based off of my experiences in the past. Now, why do we need to shift our perspective in that particular moment? Because sometimes those experiences that we went through aren't the best reference points for how life works. That's just how those particular experiences went. That doesn't mean that every person you come across is not going to be a person of their word. So I can't assume that the person that I've never met before is going to just tell me a lie or not going to be consistent or not going to own up to what they say they're going to do. I have to take them for what they are and be willing to trust them until they give me a reason not to trust them with their word. So like I said, that's something that I have to continue to constantly improve and work on, and that comes from being in different circles. That's how I personally expand my perspective, is getting around different people. The more people that I get around that share like-minded values, like-minded ideas and goals, and have a purpose in life, then at that point I can shift my perspective from thinking the way I used to think around the people who weren't of that same fold or of that same like mind. So that then that changes my perspective. That expands my perspective because okay, yeah, there are people out here that are consistent. There are people out here that have a personal drive and have ambition and have goals and are and about action and really want to do what they say they're going to do. Have creative ideas and willing to bring something to the table. So I don't have to look at them the same way I was looking at other people. So that's why, for me, perspective is so important because if you begin to assume that everybody is the same, you put yourself in a position to not progress. You begin to not trust yourself because you begin to believe that it's you who's choosing these individuals, which in a way you could say you are because you are attracting individuals to you based off the way you think, based off what you focus on, based on how you value yourself, tells you the type of people that you're even going to associate with. If you don't feel like you deserve to be in certain rooms, you're not going to make the decisions or make the sacrifice to put yourself in certain rooms of individuals that really do share the same values as you, or has the same perspective as you, or has the same ambition as you, or has the same drive as you, or work ethic. So having the right perspective and putting things in the proper perspective allows you to grow at a different rate than if you continue to refer back to the way things have always been, or refer to how your background, where you came from. Like I said, if you're looking from things from a standpoint of from the streets, If you thinking everything from a street perspective, you're going to limit yourself when you need to expand to individuals or get into rooms of individuals that aren't from the streets or don't have that same background, don't have that same value system, don't have those type of ethics or codes that you seem to go by or think that that's what you should be trusting, when in all actuality those particular codes and ways of living may not be conducive to what your goals that you're trying to get to as well. So why we must expand and shift our perspectives. That's really what we want to talk about today. That's really what I want to expound on today, because many of us assume too much. We assume that we understand individuals and where they're coming from, but we're looking at them from a very narrow minded perspective, a very narrow minded way, when in all actuality, there's a lot of variety when it comes to life. And if we are thinking that, okay, this is how things are supposed to go, this is the way my parents raised me to think this way, and that's the way that I'm going to go with. When in all actuality, your parents only raising you based off the way they were raised or what the experiences they've been. So when we talk about generational curses, or we talking about passing down generational trauma, that is a real thing in that sense, because we're not willing to think outside the box. We're going to continue to just believe what has been passed down to us and what has been taught to us, but we don't take time out to read. We don't take time out to listen or experience new people. Many of us don't travel enough. We don't go put ourselves in positions of going to see different countries or different states where conditions aren't the same that you're used to. And then maybe then you can open your mind up to say, okay, not everybody has the same living conditions. Not everybody values a car or a house the same as those who may only know about apartment buildings or projects, or if you're in a different country who don't have the same living conditions as you. So they may value water more than you value water. They may value air conditioning more than you value air conditioning, because you may be looking at it, well, everybody has air conditioning, everybody has clean water, everybody has a means of transportation or reliable transportation, or a roof over their head. That's a given where you're at. But once you get outside of your comfort zone, once you expand your perspective by traveling and seeing how other people are interacting, engaging with different cultures, at that point you're able to then say, okay, what I was thinking was a universal truth really isn't a universal truth. It's really individual to me. It's really siloed to just the way my people, or the people I was raised around, think. When you have what we call a survival mindset, there's other people who don't live based off of survival. They're not thinking about paycheck to paycheck. They're not living from a perspective of, well, what's going to happen if I can't pay my bills or if I lose this job. You have other people who think from a perspective of, how am my next generation is going to live. You have some individuals that's not thinking paycheck to paycheck. They are living day by day. They living hour by hour. So you really want to expand your perspective, because for one, it gives you a better understanding for other people. You're able to relate to people at a different level, because you're not looking at it from your vain perspective or what you go through, but you're being able to, for a certain degree, put on their shoes for a moment and say, okay, let me look at it from your point of view, and maybe I need to be more grateful for life. um One of the things I say when we started this, we should be grateful for life, because someone didn't wake up today. Someone is not going to make it to the next minute. You don't know what someone else has gone through and what makes them who they are. Um, and that leads me to the next point about expanding your perspective, because many things that we do, we don't know what could trigger somebody else. That's very important, because many of us have been through a lot of traumatic situations. Some of us, there's different levels and degrees to that, of course, but some of us have gone through things that they're still working through. And if we just look at things from our perspective, we could say something, we can do something, we could present certain things voluntarily or involuntarily to somebody that could trigger them to go down a whole nother emotional state, or go down a whole downward spiral of their growth, because we don't see things from other people's perspectives, or we're not willing to find out what other people are going through. We're not willing to look at things from someone else's viewpoint. So that's why perspective is so important. And if we're not willing to do that, we're limiting our growth. There's so much to learn in life. There's really unlimited things that we can learn in life. Um, we are limited beings, but we are created by a limitless God. So if that's the case, that means there's always something that we can learn. And the best teachers are those that we come across every day. Many people go past homeless people, or people that may be considered drug addicts, or people who have gone, are, what they would say, bad on their luck, or had unfortunate circumstances befall them, and they look past them, when in all actuality we really should be talking to them and gaining a wider perspective, or a deeper perspective on life, from what they have considered, or what they went through as a failure, what they went through as a mistake, what they went through as a setback, so that we can learn from them, but then also have a certain level of compassion for them as well. Because many times you see people who are homeless and you're like, oh man, they don't know what they made bad decisions, but you really don't know what caused them to be in that predicament. You never know what someone has gone through. You may see someone who's like a war veteran, or you may see someone who's like on drugs, but you don't know what their life was that led them down that path. We've said before on here that we're the sum total of the decisions that we make every day. Ultimately, you are exactly where you think you are or should be, because based off your thoughts leads to your actions, and your actions leads to your decisions. All of these things bring you to where you are in the universe and in reality right now. So we don't know what someone else is thinking, or how they think, the type of mindset that they have. We don't know the decisions that they had to make, or should have made, or maybe didn't make in time, that led to certain actions, led to certain movements and circumstances that led them to be homeless, or led them to be on drugs, or led them to be in jail, or led them to be in whatever situation that they're in. So we really want to take a step back and zoom out and say, let me look at the bigger picture. This particular person just went off on me. Why did they go off on me? We don't know what they went through before they ran into you. You might have said something that was that last straw that broke the camel's back, in a sense, that caused them to go off. We could have been, you don't know what they were just doing. So same thing I think about with like road rage. You don't know why somebody may have cut you off. They may not even know they cut you off. You don't know what they got going on in their car. You're like, why they ain't putting their signal light on? You don't know if the signal light works or not. But we assume, based off of our own experience, based off of what we have going on, we think everybody else should know what to do. We think everybody else has the same conditions, has the same thought patterns as us, and that's not the reality. The reality is that we're all going through something. We all have different things happening at the same time, and we should be willing to take that in consideration, because if not, we end up missing a lot of the lessons that life is trying to teach us, and we end up bumping our heads. We end up clashing and making friction with one another unnecessarily, because we assume that people are understanding the same way that we're understanding. When you think about reading, right? So reading is important. We all should read. It should be something that we all look at as a fundamental truth, that we should be reading more. We need to read more. We need to expand our knowledge base. But what about those individuals who were pressured into having to read? And I say that from a standpoint of, you have certain families where education is like number one on the list, right? So you may have been in a situation where your parents kind of made you read for years and years, and made you read and made you read and made you study and made you do these type of things. So once you got of age to do for yourself, you do anything that you can to oppose that. Sometimes it works for individuals that type of studiousness goes to the next level and they continue to build on their knowledge. But also you have individuals that have a reverse process of that as well, that as soon as they are able to do for themselves, they repel against that type of decision making or thinking. So they don't want to read anymore. So whenever you bring up reading, that kind of sets them a certain trigger. But they're like, no, I don't want nothing to do with that. Now we could assume that, okay, this person don't want to read. You mean tell me they don't want to learn? They don't want to do that? No, it's not that they don't want to learn. It's they were given a certain set of circumstances and experience that has caused them to dislike reading. But if we don't understand that, if we just think, well, I love to read and you should read, we could be pushing books on people who could be putting them through a certain psychological setback that ultimately we're contributing to their downfall. We're not helping them grow in that way. So we want to be willing to ask questions. We have to be willing to um, take a step back and be willing to listen to people and find out more about people. And that's another thing that comes with perspective, and expanding your perspective is you would need to be able to take personal interest in other people as well. If you only think about yourself, yes, we're talking about self development, and yes, you should think about yourself. You should work on yourself first. But once, as you working on yourself, you also have to be willing to take personal interest in others and treat others the way you want to be treated, in the sense that you want to make sure that you give other people grace and you want to ask them questions and be willing to listen to their answers and not listen to respond. You want to take in consideration what they may be going through, how they may be living life, and what circumstances they've been put through, so that we can get a better understanding of them. And then we may discover certain similarities that we thought may have been differences, but based off way they explain what they've gone through or way they explain their thought process, you may find some similarities in them, which will give you a common ground that you can build a relationship from that point forward. Now, that's not something that's universal that everyone is going to feel that same way, but we have to be willing to do it, because you don't know what you can learn from the next person. But if you're not putting yourself in a position to even want to learn or open your mind to different perspectives, you ultimately lose out on the benefits of growth. So, um, that's really what I wanted to kind of to stand on today. This probably won't be a long-winded episode. But what I wanted to do is I wanted to read something from my book here on perspective, which kind of gives you an idea of the way I kind of think about perspective as well. So I'll read two sentences here. So it says, our perspective reflects our perception of our reality. If we allow our perspective to stay small or narrow, or not exposed to other sides of seeing things, we are setting ourselves up to fall short of hitting our target. Looking at experiences from the correct perspective opens us up to learn from them, and it shapes us into who we are to become. Taking time out to define your perspective as well is a protection for us, because all perspectives are not created equal, which leads us to the second part of this aspect of the mindset that we're building. We also want to seek outside perspectives on subjects, our experiences, and our thought processes in order to help decipher through and secure ourselves on the lesson and decision that needs to be done to achieve a better or good day. So when it comes to what I was reading there as well, you want to be willing to seek out other perspectives. So when it comes to, like, for me, when it comes to business, all right. So for a long time, I've spent a lot of time trying to figure business out on my own, right? And yes, progress can get made. You can come up with a couple ideas. You can connect a couple dots. But when you actually go get a business coach, and you can bounce things off your business coach, they can give you some tangible advice of what they've done. It helps you expand your perspective, because you're not going to see you, because you're new in business and this person is experienced in business. There's certain things that you may think of that they've already experienced that either works or doesn't work. So by seeking out the perspective of a business coach, I'm able to avoid some pitfalls. I'm able to take some of these raw ideas or raw ways of thinking to do things, bounce it off someone who's already tried it out and know what works and what doesn't work, and eliminate a lot of the headache, eliminate a lot of the money being wasted investing in certain things that you think is going to help build your business, when in all actuality you may not be in a stage where you spending that type of money is even going to help you grow your business at the rate that you want to. So seeking out different perspectives helps you learn at a faster rate, instead of going through trial and error. Instead of bumping your head and say, okay, yeah, maybe I shouldn't go down that way anymore. You can now go to somebody who's already bumped their head. They can say, no, watch out for that pothole. Watch out for that wall. Take a left right here. Take a right here. Slow down when you get to this point. Speed up when you get to this point. it eliminates a lot of the headache and a lot of the figuring out. Take all the hassle out of it. So that's why it's so important to seek out other perspectives, and why we want to get out of our own way when it comes to expanding our perspective. Because if we just believe that everything that we've learned thus far is enough, then that's how far we're going to grow. We're going to stop our growth. We're going to stunt our growth. And then ultimately, when other people come to us and want our advice is limited based off of what we've experienced. So we can only teach, or we can only inform others as far as we know and the knowledge base that we have. We have no frame of reference to go by other than what we've experienced, and that experience then turns into opinion. And we want to be sure that we're giving as much facts as possible. We want to give as much real advice, not just our interpretation of what we think should happen. We want to really give a vantage point. Okay, this is what I did. This is what worked and what didn't work. And this is how I figured out, or how who I spoke to figure out how to get this to from point A to point B, instead of bumping my head so they don't have to bump their head. Because then you have the blind leading the blind, in a sense, where we both just figure it out. Well, you tell me what you think, and then I tell you what I think. Now, let me tell you what I know based off of what I've done. Let me tell you what I know and who I know and what they've done, so you can seek out the proper advice, so you can get the right perspective on what you're deciding on, or what you're looking to experience or expand on. So, like I said, I'm not going to belabor the point, but we really want to expand our perspectives. We really, really want to be willing to seek out advice from other people, so that we don't get this tunnel vision the wrong way. Tunnel vision is good when it comes to hitting goals, but when you're at that point of brainstorming, when you're doing something that you've never done before, you want to be willing to put yourself in a position to learn from others. And if you're not willing to learn from anybody else, you're just ultimately slowing down your growth, and you're making it harder for yourself when you can make it easier. So we need to shift our perspectives from this individualistic approach. We need to be more community based. What way been taught by the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan is that self-development is the basis for community improvement. Excuse me. Self-improvement is the basis of community development. So if we need to work on ourselves, and many of the things that we try to work on ourselves, you can get that right advice that you need from someone else, someone who's older than you. You can learn from someone younger than you. Every one of us have been through something that we can learn from, where we can improve. And as we all work with each other to improve ourselves, we can build a better community. And it just continues to grow and expand from there. So the importance of expanding our perspective is vital to our growth. The way we view things ultimately reflects how we think. The more expansive our perspective, the more expansive our thinking can be. So we're not just coming up from ideas based off of our own vantage point. We can get a better understanding for other individuals in our community and our family and all walks of life, so that we can think on a higher level, because we're not looking at things from just our mindset. Again, I speak about that survival mindset. If you only surround yourself with individuals that's trying to survive, you'll never be able to really understand what it means to seek abundance. You have to get around other people who do see things abundantly, for you to think at a different level, so that you can get out of that survival mindset. But as they say, if you're the smartest one in the room, then you're in the wrong room. The same way that if you're the richest one in the room, you're in the wrong room. You want to continuously put yourself in uncomfortable positions, so that you can learn, so that you can grow. A fish that's in a too small of a fish tank does not grow to the level that they want. They have so many experiences and studies they speak about. When you tie a rope around the leg of an elephant when it's a child, and you leave it on there as it continues to grow, it'll never, even though it's strong enough to break that rope, it'll never break that rope, because it's been conditioned to believe that it can't go any further. The same thing with a flea. A flea has a natural 36-inch vertical, but if you put it inside of a jar where it can only jump 5, 6 inches, it eventually would get comfortable in that area, and it will never reach its fullest potential. And many of us have the potential to do great things, but because we rely on our frame of reference, which is limited, because we hang around individuals who thinks very small or devalue themselves or don't think highly of themselves, then you will begin to not think highly of yourself, which causes you to limit yourself as well. So seeking other perspectives, getting around other like-minded individuals who have ambition, that has a work ethic, that's willing to get uncomfortable, shows you that it's possible, so that you can begin to push and defy your limits that you have set for yourself. Get out of those limiting, them self-limiting beliefs, be able to expand yourself, reach new goals, reach new heights, and become a better version of yourself. So I appreciate you tapping in. This is another episode of the Silent Conversations podcast. I didn't want to make this a long podcast today. We'll talk about perspective more in upcoming episodes, but in the comments, let's talk about perspective. Let me know, what limits have you put on yourself based off of what you've been through, and what are you going to do to help expand your perspective? Where are you going to travel next? What rooms are you going to get into in order for you to see new things and see new possibilities, so you can change the way that you're thinking and change the way that you view business or view finances or view life, view yourself, and to be able to get to a new level in life. So, as always, I appreciate y'all tapping in. Again, this is the Silent Conversations podcast. Make sure you like, subscribe, comment, share this out. Again, this episode is brought to you by my book, The Three P's, where I speak about perspective. That is one of the P's. It's actually the third P in this book: peace, positivity, and perspective. We all need peace of mind. We all need to be able to focus on positive things and have a more positive thinking, so we can outweigh the negatives of this world and the negative thoughts that we produce on a regular basis. And we all need a better and deeper, expanded perspective, so that we can get a better understanding of others, which ultimately help us get a better understanding of ourselves. Because as I stated, if you only look at what you've been through, you're limiting your growth. So if you can get around individuals who are pushing past their comfort zone, that are reaching new goals and reaching new heights, it will show the ability that you have in yourself as well. So the three P's, the keys to having better days: text the word book or ebook to 804-221-6226. I'll send you the link or get you the information for you to be able to get a copy of my book, The Three P's, the keys to having better days. We all want better days in life, because everything that we think that is a bad day is really us focusing on a bad moment. So we use these three words: peace, positivity, and perspective, to take any day and make it a good day and make a good day better. So tap in, family. I'll see you in the next episode. And as always, continue to think, learn, grow. If you're thinking, you can find an opportunity to learn. If you're learning, you're creating an opportunity to grow. And anything not growing is dying. So I'll see you next time.